The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning, everybody. My name is John Skis, and I'm the Director of Media for TAPS. We're going to get started on this fall soccer webinar in just a few minutes, but I've got some housekeeping things that I'd like to address before we start. So first things first, this webinar is being recorded, and we're going to make the recording available on the TAPS YouTube page, which you can find at youtube.com/tapsbiz. You're also going to get a link to that in the follow-up email that you'll get about an hour after the webinar closes. And we're going to put links on our website and on social media. So if anybody on your campus needs to hear this information but couldn't be with us today, you can easily send that recording to them. Second, if you have questions, please use the questions feature in the GoToWebinar interface. We're going to try to answer as many as we can while we go through the presentation. But if you ask one and we don't get to it right away, don't worry about it. There is a general kind of Q&A session after the presentation where we catch up on questions. If, however, we still don't have time for your question, or it's just too detailed, too in the weeds for us to address appropriately in this venue, just send us an email, info@taps.biz, after the webinar, or call the office. Third, some of us are in the office, some of us are working from home. I'm working from home. The daycares are still closed, at least for us, so forgive me if you hear my kids running around or screaming in the background. But in the TAPS office today, I'm joined by Brian Bunselmeyer, the TAPS Executive Director, Robert Huckabee, our Director of Compliance, and Steve Prudhomme, our Associate Director. We've also got Will Dixon from the TAPS office staff. He's in there helping us behind the keyboard and everything over there today. Before I hand it over to Robert, though, I've got a quick poll for everybody attending. We would like to know what your role is on your campus. Are you an athletic director, a head coach, an assistant coach, another staff member, or are you not a staff member at a TAPS school? Take a couple of seconds and answer that question real quick, just so we know who we're talking to. We'll have a few other polls as we go through. Just about half of you have voted. Give it a couple of more seconds. All right, I'm going to close the poll. Thank you for that. And with that, I'll hand it over to Robert.
All right, John, thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us. What we're going to do is try to walk you through some information, what we know about the world we're in right now, what we can and can't do, some things that you need to be thinking about as you walk through the summer and then look toward the fall. So I'm going to kind of serve as our moderator and help us walk through that information today. I'm going to pass it over to Brian and let him share some opening comments with us.
I want to thank everybody for joining us here today and those that catch up later. As John said, these webinars will all be posted on the TAPS website and taps.biz on the YouTube. If you know folks that you don't think were here today and that they could benefit from this information, please drop in an email and see who we can kind of get in the bigger net, so to speak. But we are excited. Fall soccer will be one of the first events that kicks us off in the fall. And we just kind of wanted to make sure here today that everybody was on the same page, give you a forum to ask your questions. We'll give you the best answers we have. And as we move forward, again, I want to encourage you that if you have questions, please follow what John said. Type the question in the question box on your control panel, and we will sure try to answer those. With that, we're going to go into a little bit of what's going on now and what you can and can't do. So, Robert, take it away on that note.
All right. Thank you, Brian. Our next slide is the question we've been asked most frequently, especially in the last days and weeks. What can I do? What can I not do now with my students and my athletes? Right now, we're still in a virtual mode. So between now and May the 31st, based on the orders and the information and guidelines that have come out from and through the governor's office, from a TAPS perspective, you're in a virtual mode. So all those virtual remote instruction or training things that that you could have or have been doing with your students. That'll continue through May 31st. What can I do starting June 1st? Well, as we understand the directives we've been given at this point, and we'll talk about it briefly, that will change. We do know that things have changed on practically a daily basis recently. But starting June 1st, what you're allowed to do as part of a school-sponsored program, your school gyms, weight rooms, and indoor facilities will remain closed for purposes of athletic or fitness activities, both to your students and to those in your community. So that's where we sit today, starting on June 1st. Starting on June 1st. No gyms, weight rooms, or indoor facilities are to be used. You can, however, do outdoor activities. Outdoor sports are allowed, but only if they're conducted in accordance with the State Department health guidelines. And what those are referenced there. Individuals may engage in outdoor sports provided that the sports do not include contact with other participants and there are no more than 4 participants at any time. So that's what we know at this point. We know that there will be changes coming forth, hopefully in the next days. But as we sit here today with all the guidance we've been given, looking at that and gleaning through all that information, that's what you're allowed to do between now and May 31st and then starting June 1st. Brian?
So to kind of reiterate, we're on hold till the 1st. Beginning the 1st, we can have limited contact with our students. As you go forward, understand that if you're hosting camps as your school or you're doing those opportunities for younger students, those are governed by a totally different set of rules. So make sure your school is following whatever the Governor Abbott's posting is. We look forward to an opportunity to tell you if summer is fully on, that you can have your 15 contact hours, et cetera. But as of right now, we're a little limited in what we can and what we can't do. One of the questions that's come up continually from our soccer and our volleyball folks is there a different set of rules for club coaches and a different set of rules for your school coaches? Many of our coaches in soccer especially play a dual role. They're very active in club and they're also active on campus. So the school coach can't work with his or her high school players right now. However, the rules for club coaches are different. It looks like our governor, starting June 1st, has opened up more opportunities on the club side than the school side. So make sure if you're a club coach that you are going through your club to find out what you can and can't do and where you can and can't do it. From the school side, until we get that release from the governor, the high school players in TAPS are not allowed to participate with the coaches of TAPS, so to speak. So there are 2 different sets of rules. Just make sure you walk through with the club what you have. The next slide comes up and we're just we throw that up there. Will this change? We highly anticipate in the next 10 days before we even get to June 1 that there will be some changes coming down from the governor's office. And shortly thereafter, we would expect additional change. The governor's office has proven to be trying to open up Texas as fast as he can. One of the concerns we have with school and school-based programs is the Texas the Teachers Association, the teachers lobby and whatever, they are not wanting summer school to open June 1. So it's kind of, you have the coaching staffs on one side saying, go Cat, go, get us out there as soon as possible. And then you have the teachers on the other side saying, we don't want to go teach summer school. So I think it will be hard, or at this point, I think it's going to be hard for our governor to balance those two, and the scale always must balance as we go forward. Robert, Steve, any concerns as we go forward from that?
No, I think that sums it up well, Brian. This is, I don't know what number webinar this is we've had in the last week, but we've had many trying to drill down into the specifics of each activity as we move into the fall, help you with your planning as much as we can. And so as we move toward the summer, June 1st, being able to at least do a little bit and hopefully more. Let's talk about, Brian, contact hours, what we can do and what our guidelines are for summer.
So beginning May 18th, Monday, as soon as our schools can get back and the governor allows, and it looks like right now that's going to be June 1, each school can have 15 contact hours, which includes conditioning, weightlifting, open gyms, open fields, or actual practice, which each student each week. So if you actually have games or not, so some of y'all would have been coaches would have been in club and not been able to work with your kids, but now this may be an opportunity that comes back around with COVID and where it's put it together. The one thing that has come up is how many fall workouts. It's awful hot out there. What can we do? So fall workouts for soccer, are you going to do 2 practices a day, or are you going to do 1 combo practice? Our guideline there, of course, is no more than 3 hours outside at any one point. When you go inside, it changes things a little. So fall soccer is different from volleyball. It's different from football. And we understand that the training requirements of both. Once school begins, the question always comes up on how much time can my soccer coach, or any coach for that matter, program practice after school or before school? And the answer is that's local discretion. So especially early in the year, you might want to go less practice, or as you move through the year, go more. So again, right now, beginning June 1, once the governor has released us to go from virtual to on campus in some form or fashion, you'd have up to 15 hours for condition and practice. So that's kind of gets us our contact hours. No, that's changed. It's all just kind of a good time to reiterate it. So Robert, what else we got on the agenda?
All right, next topic is important dates. Share with our listeners today those dates we need to be looking at as we move through the summer and into the beginning of the fall.
The dates are important because we have many schools that are right now changing their calendars. Folks that would have traditionally gone back to school the 3rd week in August, maybe moving it back up to August 3rd. And we have actually got a couple of schools that are looking from moving from an August start date to a September date, depending on what the COVID crisis does. So June 1st would be the first day of summer practices in person, unless the governor changes his mind. Dead week is still in place from July 26th to August 2nd, which means no contact with your players during that time frame. And then beginning August 3rd, you have your first day of practice. And the next thing would be August 10th is your first day of games. That number's not on there, but it's there. We're also going to do a repeat or a new webinar on August the 12th. Highly encourage you to put that on your calendar, August 12th. That's where we're going to go through much more granular detail about what our plans are. Hopefully we can discuss, we'll know by then exactly where the state championships, et cetera, are. So August 12th will be a more informative date. And then for students who are transferring to your school, we fully anticipate students will be to your school as soon as possible. Well, you know that we have some schools that are losing students to charter schools and other schools that, to be honest with you, may not enjoy that experience and want to come back. So the transfer deadline of August 8th is important, and we're here at the office to help you as we go through that.
All right, our next slide says practice equipment. If I'm a coach that wants to get out there with my athletes starting as early as June 1st, or even as the governor opens up restrictions throughout the summer, what equipment can I use and not use that we know of as we sit here today?
So June 1, as we go back into on-site practice, as the way it's written right now, no equipment can be used. So today we're virtual. June 1st, we're still no equipment. But as we move into regular summer practice, you can pretty well use all the equipment you have, indoor, outdoor. There's no limitation on that. There is an acclimation period once we get back to, remember, with dead week in place, make sure that you're prepared coming back later to acclimate. If the governor keeps this restricted into June and into July, dead week will most likely be modified. We haven't made that push yet because the sense of feeling between the athletic executive committee, the board, and the executive board is that if we're able to get back in the first part of June, you'll have 6 to 8 weeks to get students ready. Dead week would still be appreciated. Many of our students haven't been traveling. For those of you in the Valley, et cetera, I don't know that the students are able to come and go as freely as they have been to go back if they're living in Mexico or if they're coming across or however that goes. And we also know that some of the international lines are getting long. So for our boarding schools, we know that's going to be a struggle too, getting your students in and out. Some of them haven't been able to go home. They're definitely going to look to go home. So right now, no equipment. June 1, no equipment. As soon as the governor opens it up, then you can use your gyms and equipment as you see fit. Those rules, again, if you're strictly talking club coaching or working on a club basis, that is different than if you're working with your own high school students.
Okay, let's look toward the fall. We've had this question a lot recently. Have you guys at the TAPS office thought about what the fall is going to look like?
We're anticipating the fall is going to look like just every other fall. It's going to look like the fall of 2019 and 18 and 17. We're going to come back with the first day of practice on August 3rd. Your first scrimmages that Thursday, August the 6th. First real games and meaningful games, August 10th. The playoffs are set to begin on Saturday, October 17th with the championships on the 29th and the 30th. Those dates are subject to change. in the event something comes up, or our locations. Right now, we would love to go back to that Round Rock soccer facility, that multi-purpose center we've been at the last couple of years. But as other things get pushed back, if they don't have the ability, we will find some place to host it. So right now, you can could probably consider August 3rd a pretty hard date. Your first day of real practice, which is unlimited in time. Your scrimmages. I know a lot of schools in fall soccer, the scrimmage component doesn't happen, and your first games may not even occur till later on. But the first day you can have a game or a tournament would be August 10th.
All right, thank you. Everyone in the school world is looking at what they're dealing with now. They're also looking at if we get started in the fall and things go well. There's a lot of discussion about possible disruptions throughout the course of the fall. Share with our listeners what some of our thoughts are in that respect.
I know that most headmasters, head of schools, principals, and even as it goes to the coach and the athletic director, we're looking at if we can start school in August, what happens if the COVID-19 virus raises its head again and we're forced to stop school and clean or et cetera, or whatever it's going to be. So if you look at it, if we get started August 3rd with practice and we get to October 1st, if everybody across the state closes down on October 1st, then that's kind of an easy push. We just move everything back a week or two and we continue the schedule as planned. It's more likely, based on the governor's comments, that he will not close the whole state. He will close hotspots. So if Brownsville becomes a hotspot, or if Dallas-Fort Worth becomes a hotspot, or something, or Austin or Round Rock, then of course a school in that situation, especially if they had a student that had the COVID-19 tested positive, or especially on a team tested positive, or a coach, then they would be shut down for whatever period is going to be required right then. So we understand that the whole state could be shut down, individual teams could be shut down. The idea that we have is we're going to work the schedule the way the schedule plays out. We're not looking at makeup games unless time allows. I know that if I were the principal or the head coach and my opponent had to shut down for 2 weeks because of the COVID-19 virus, and communication is going to be very important between schools, I may have parents or kids that don't want to go play them on Tuesday of the next week when they come open, or Thursday or whatever. So we will manage through those as best we can when those possibilities come up. But right now, plan on playing your schedule the way you have it scheduled, and we will make amendments on how to get to the playoffs as we move forward. So I don't know that we'll have disruptions. Weather has always been a big disruptor. I'm almost confident to be able to say the weather disruptions may affect us more than the COVID-19. As you go forward as well, some schools are already planning an online or virtual component in addition to their in-person. There's going to go in-person 1 week and virtual another at times, or take an elongated fall break or whatever that may be. As long as your school is actually in session, then you can have your practice just like you'd normally have your practice, unless the local discretion says, no, we want everybody home and no contact. So we're going to make it through one step at a time, and the key to that is communication. If you haven't got it written down, info at taps.biz is the email. We'll follow that up later, and you can also call the TAPS office. As we stated earlier, we are working virtually, so if you've got one person here answering the phone and the phone rings several times, it's going to take a while to get it where everybody can answer. So fall is coming, and we'll be prepared, as we know you will be too.
As always, looking toward the fall and getting back to playing games, let's review the rules and things that are in place while some of our coaches have time to kind of walk through this and have some refreshers in that respect.
Pretty well just want to go back and remind everybody that we are not under the laws of the game. That went away many years ago. Our laws for the National Federation are based on FIFA laws, but they are not quite the same. So the 2020 National Federation rules are in effect. If you haven't gone to nfhs.org and ordered that, you might. We have the 2020 changes posted on the TAPS website. We'll show you where that is in a little while. The points of emphasis are always important to know what the officials are being told to start looking for. For the most part, I think you're going to see that they're going to pay attention to the sideline. They're going to pay a little less attention to equipment. One question, though, that continues to come up, and that's why I wanted to talk about it today, is the National Federation requires a player that receives a yellow card to leave the pitch, must be substituted for prior to the start of play again. We have had a couple of districts, both in fall and winter, that wanted to override that rule and say, no, you don't have to leave the pitch. But the rule is, If you get carded with a yellow card and ultimately with a red card, you do have to leave the pitch and be substituted for in the yellow situation. A red card is 2 yellows accumulated in the same contest by the same player or coach. That player must leave the pitch on the yellows. And the way the wording is right now, you do not have to leave the stadium if you're a player. However, if you have a player that gets carded, if they get red carded or double yellowed and they have to go off the pitch, you better have somebody on your sideline that is there to keep them in check. Even in our contests that we've hosted over the last couple of years, in the situation where we've had to play man down, that man seems to be on the sideline still being very vocal, and that needs to be in a positive manner. So again, if you get your yellow card, you must leave the pitch to be substituted for, and then follow those rules as we go on. The uniform rules are the National Federation rules, and the only reason we bring them up, Will and I have been fortunate now to do 2 years of fall and winter soccer. It's a lot of games. For those of you who don't know, Will was a alum of Fort Worth Christian, and he's a soccer alum. So Will and I both love the game. It's extremely hard to comment on a game or to give you play-by-play when you either don't have numbers on the front or you have taken advantage of the hide the number, where you have a white number on a white jersey with a little pinstripe on the outside. So you may know your kids and your parents may know who's out there on the pitch, but we just want to make sure. So follow those uniform rules. They are posted on the TAPS website. And again, we will show those to you later on in this presentation. We'll show you where to find those rules. The other part about that are the TAPS rules. And again, those are in sections 170 and 171. The big one that needs to be brought to bear again here is that several years ago, going on almost 10 now, TAPS does not allow ties in district or preseason competition between TAPS schools. So you do need to play all those contests out. So if you're tied 1-1, 0-0 at the end of regulation, each district can set their own tiebreaker. You can go to golden goal, you can go to silver goal in an overtime period, you can go straight to shootout. But you definitely need to make sure you have a plan for breaking them. So TAPS district, make sure, and even into the playoffs, make sure we do get final scores. And then there's a suspended game. If lightning comes or if darkness comes, whatever it may be, or you had a major injury. We had that happen last year where both teams felt like they were not able to complete the contest during that time. A suspended game, once you've made it to halftime, comes back and you pick up from the minute of play, and whoever had possession, I think it'll be a drop ball if I remember correctly, and we go from there. So suspended games and complete games, make sure you know it. The official ball, the approved ball, we say it all the time. It's the Wilson Forte, Forte 2. So if you have one of those versions of the Wilson soccer ball, needs to be used as the official ball on the pitch. So no offense to our Baden and our Adidas and our Nike and our whoever else it may be for TAPS play. If TAPS school's involved in fall soccer, and pretty much we're the ones playing, it's fall soccer, a Wilson ball will be in place. So that's where we go on the TAPS rules.
Thank you, Brian. Let's jump to schedules. I'm going to pass this one off to Steve. And, oh, I'm sorry. John, we're going to do a poll here right quick. You got one ready for us?
Yes, sir. Let's see. Are we looking schedule first day of school or fall soccer participation?
Let's go schedule first day of school.
Schedule first day of school. All right, folks. If you could tell us, if you know, what your scheduled 2021 first day of school is, whether that's the week of August 3rd, 10th, 17th, 24th, I cannot speak today, or August 31st. If you don't know, just leave it blank. Looks like we got 23% voted so far. I'll leave it up for a little bit longer. All right, I'm going to go ahead and close. Thank you for participating. Robert, take it away.
All right. Thank you, John. let's jump in and talk about schedules. I'm going to pass this one off to Steve, let him visit with us about how you do your schedules, the importance of getting them in rank 1 and that whole process.
Yes, it's highly important that you get your schedules in and also into rank 1 and made public. One of the things that we do is we'll put our schedules in, but we don't flip the switch. We need to see and be able to check. And again, you can always make changes after it's public and then re-release it. But it's important that we get it through rank 1 and ScoreStream this year. If you're having a problem or you don't know, there's directions available, and Will in the office is the guru when it comes to both of these. Getting your schedules in and then also your scores. Moving forward. Okay, officials. The officials will need that schedule as soon as possible, and they've said that numerous times, going into uncertainty, trying to make sure that we have everything covered, whether it's TASO or a non-TASO group. Get your schedule to them, and also they'll be able to give you an idea of whether they're going to be able to cover your game or not. We had some issues last year with certain games not being able to be covered, and some disagreements over that. Get the schedule in first, work through anything that needs to be worked through, and you'll be ready.
All right, thanks, Steve. Next topic is student information. Obviously, that's information that's contained in rank 1 as well. If you're a coach or assistant coach and not really familiar with that, that's certainly fine. Be sure to connect with your AD and know how to do that. Steve, help them with that process just a little bit.
Well, Robert said it right. The athletic director or whoever's handling rank 1 needs to make sure that the students are all in there and going through the promotion process from 1920 to 2021. This can be done. It's a relatively easy process unless you make a couple of mistakes. So make sure you get with rank 1. There's webinars available and be able to promote your students. And then the new students, the 8th graders and the transfer students, need to be inputted into rank 1. Those student profiles, those are each parent, each family creating an account and going through and filling out the student profile. The student profile then will let you know where the next place is that you need to go in terms of being not living with parent, transfer, or whatever. So it's a great safety net for folks to make sure that all the forms are in and everything's good, or it's red. And we want it to be red, we want it to be green, not red. And you need to know that in advance. Your eligibility rosters come next once the students are in there. Get them filled out, get all the students that could possibly be in your program onto there, and you'll be able to know who's ready and who's not going into the new year.
All right, thank you, Steve. Make sure on a staff level too, while we're talking about rank 1, make sure that your AD, your administrator who's running rank 1 at your school, make sure they have you in the system and all the roles that you have at your school. Okay, everything needs to be in there. If you're a head coach in one activity, but an assistant coach in a different activity, all those roles need to be marked in rank 1. That's how we communicate with all of our ADs and our coaches. So when we send a communication out that's specific to, in this case, fall soccer, we don't send it to the other activities. We send it to the ADs and to those coaches and assistant coaches. If you're not marked correctly in rank 1, you won't receive those communications. So a very important part of rank 1 is having all of our staff and all their roles, and then all of our student information in there. Another part of student information that we need in rank 1 that's important for you at your level and us at the administrative level is student health information. Steve, visit with us briefly about that.
It's going to be a little improved this year because we've split it up. The medical history form can be done by the family, the student, and it'll also let them know the different things that we need to be on the lookout for in terms of each student, and that information will be available. And now with the physicals will be a separate form that will need to be uploaded by the school. So the parent will be able to get that form, whichever form you use, and get the physical in, and that will be uploaded. Once that information is uploaded, then the student will be green when it comes to health, student health. We do not see the physicals. We do not see all that. We see that they've been uploaded and they have all the security there is in case you get that question. But again, talking to your athletic trainers, talking to your athletic director, make sure all of that is in place. And this year, we still say you must have a physical. That is a TAPS requirement every year and is not going to be waived this year. The UIL has made a different decision, but TAPS is going to require that physical as soon as possible. So if they're having difficulty, we'll work with you on that, but we want to make sure it's done as soon as possible. If we see something on that medical history form, though, such as a heart issue or a concussion or coming back from a major injury or anything like that that requires a physical and requires clearance, then we will not, it's not okay, that wasn't me, it's not okay to be able to go onto the field until you have all medical clearances. So that's for your protection. And again, get with your students early, make sure they have everything in order moving into the new year.
Thank you, Steve. And to summarize, if you have issues or questions about anything in Rank 1, anything required for students from an eligibility purpose, physicals, anything like that, reach out to our office. We can help you walk through that information. Alignment. There have been a lot of questions about alignment. This is the beginning of our next 2-year alignment starting in the fall of 2020. Brian, share with our listeners some of the discussions we've had recently.
We've pushed out since last October, November, the alignment. So if you go to taps.biz, that's B-I-Z, click on the word alignment on the top left bar, and then click on fall soccer Division I, you'll get the division lineup. So we know that fall soccer, sometimes the schools playing are tenuous, and right now with the COVID-19, we have many schools that don't know what their enrollment will be, or they're leery of what their enrollment may be. Those are your districts. If you have not had your district meeting or set up your fall schedule, we encourage you to do that, probably more virtually now than in the past, but get those schedules set. And it's very important that if you get to the fall and you're not going to be able to participate or not be able to play, please let your district opponents know, but also let the TAPS office know so that we can make the changes where necessary. So taps.biz, alignment at the top left, click on Fall Soccer Division I, and that will take you to your alignment. Of course, based on your standings in your alignment, as we get done, we'll go to the brackets, and we'll talk to that in just a minute. John, did we have another poll about schedules being complete, or did we not do that one this time?
Yes, sir. I've got it right here. Fall 2020 soccer schedule. Folks, if you could just tell us very quickly, is your 2020 soccer schedule complete or incomplete? About half of you have voted. I'll give it about 15, 20 more seconds. All right, folks, thank you. Back to you guys.
All right, this is going to bring us to where we talk about standings. So if you go to the TAPS website, www.taps.biz, click on athletics at the top left, and then click on fall soccer. It will take you to this landing page. You see that big red ribbon under the picture where it says the word standings in brackets. That's where the standings can be found. And the brackets, once they're posted in September, that's where they'll be found as well. Right there in the middle, that big black bar is ScoreStream. That's on the home page and it's on the soccer page. So that's why we're asking you, and yes, it is mandatory that all of your games go in ScoreStream. You don't have to do it goal by goal. It's fun for your fans when you do it that way, but we definitely need your final scores in there. So your standings and your brackets are going to be shown on the red bar above. You can always click on contact us to send us an email at info@taps.biz. That's where that's going to go. We'll drop down just a little bit. So your important dates are on the calendar. We've also highlighted them here. And on the right-hand side, right now it says in green, officials pay scale updates. That's the soccer blog. So as we get closer and closer to the season and during the season, if we're going to send an email or if we're trying to contact our soccer coaches or programs, not only are we going to send an email or a rank 1 push, but we'll also post that information here. So if you're a soccer coach or an AD, make sure you jump over here and grab that is where we'll see that. So the blog is important, and then tweets for TAPS Soccer. So if you've got the social media arm going, John mans ours here at the office, and we all try to pitch in. Make sure you include us, and that way those gives John an opportunity to follow you as well, also to highlight some of the things. So if you're tweeting out information, make sure you help to include us, especially pictures or contests, those things, or someone's signing, etc. TAP Soccer is important for us. We'll have championship information listed there, then there's resources, etc., as you can see as you go through. So taps.biz, click on athletics, click on fall sports, which would be fall soccer. It will bring you to this page. This page is very important to you, so make sure you know where the fall soccer page is. So district standings, once you enter your information into your game information into rank 1, once you turn that schedule public, you'll start showing up on the standings once we update that link for 2020. And then every time you enter your score, we'll move you up or down. Unlike the old format in Tapster, if you added and somebody else added, you only had to have one opponent. It would add for both programs. However, in the present one, each school needs to keep track of their score. So if my team defeats Robert's team, both Robert and I need to put the score in so it'll be reflected in district standings. Every sport, for every year I've been here, and I've concluded 13 years at TAPS, it's very important that all districts include all games, pre-district and district, especially in fall soccer. Make sure you get your district scores in. Make sure you get your non-district scores in. Everybody wants to see how you're doing. We're strung on this one from Brownsville to Longview to Sherman, Texoma, up in the north. We're not going to be able to see each other play, but it sure is beneficial as you're planning your season and potential postseason to be able to see those district standings. Brackets will be the next quick topic of conversation. They'll be very similar to what they have been in the past. It'll be a 16-team bracket unless something dictates a change. And COVID might. If we lose a few weeks, we might have to go down to a 8-team bracket. But right now, we're planning on a 16-team bracket. Those will be out somewhere between September 15th and 22nd. And like last year, we'll have a release show when we do that. So brackets will be coming shortly. Just got to hold on and see who all is going to play before we get there. We're going to jump to officials, Robert. Do me a favor if you'll cover that next slide real quick where it talks about who our officials are and pay scales, et cetera.
You got it. Officials need to be officials that are approved for play for TAPS. TASO officials obviously qualify any TASO chapter you have. You can use those officials. Your games need to be scheduled through that chapter. They don't need to be done independently by somebody who says I'm a TASO approved official. They need to go through the assigning secretary. That's a part of that process. There certainly are areas of our state that may not have a TASO chapter that can serve you, but the TAPS approved chapters, there's a list of approved chapters. Those independent chapters reach out to our office. We have some requirements they have to go through to be approved by us. Steve in our office is the one who handles a lot of that. I'm going to pass it to Steve and let him share some thoughts on that with you.
Yes, and coming from last year, I think it's important that we get good communication. We have a recommended pay scale, and we're asking the chapters to share their contracts with us. If you sign a contract with them, you can go ahead and share it with the office so we can keep up. Again, we'll enforce the contract both ways, but also we want to make sure that both sides are staying close to that recommended pay scale and that we're getting TAPS approved officials. We'll be working on that this summer, updating the list. They'll be putting in a little bit more applications, and your feedback is very important to us, and they'll have some of you guys down as references. So please be responsive when we reach out.
Thank you, Steve. Brian, a couple of comments as we move into what might look like a slightly different year.
As we go forward as well on officials, the two schools involved, if you have to cancel a game, whether it's weather, whether it's COVID-19, whether it's travel problems, your bus doesn't start and you can't get there, whatever it is, somebody needs to make sure we contact that soccer official or the officials. And it's the home team's responsibility. We're using 2-man crews. We're using 3-man crews, depending on what you can get and where you can get them. If you are getting a 2-man crew, please make sure to discuss with the assigning and the assigner that you do need. If you're using a 2-man crew, make sure they know 2-man mechanics. It is a little different. If they're using the standard 3-man crew with the ARs and the mid, again, that's good. Just make sure that they understand what your expectations are. The officials, when they come out, their word is final. So that's a struggle as well sometimes. You may not agree, or, that red card that pops up with 20 seconds left in the game, which has happened before, and now you're going to a PK. But we all move forward. We're all in this together. There's 3 teams on the field. There's a home, a visitor, and an officials team. And unfortunately, at the end of the day, the officials team is going to have the end say.
Also, that also brings up the importance of the pregame meeting, the pre-match meeting. get there with both coaches and the officials, go over all the rules, where we're at with everything, also in case weather occurs, what the plan is. So again, the pregame meeting is key, and you'll hear us repeat that a few times throughout this year.
Basically, once the play begins, the officials are really the only ones that can stop it or suspend it. So up until you play, it's the home team's responsibility and the visitor as well to make sure and confirm you're going to play, especially with weather. I know many of our fall soccer schools are playing on a field not your own. So if you're at a park, it may not be in your control. And in fact, we've had it happen in San Antonio before where the city parks say you can't play, but they don't tell you till noon or 1 o'clock. Well, now you're stuck with people driving a long way. So again, if you need fields or whatever, make sure, but understand that it's once you start the contest, once that first ball's touched, then the officials are in charge of how long you play and where you play. Protocols when play resumes. There's a lot of discussion right now going on between the TAPS office and TASO. The officials need to feel safe when they come on campus. They need to feel safe during the contest. Right now the CDC protocols say don't have water. Each student should have their own water source. You shouldn't have the big Gatorade tubs. You shouldn't be using Gatorade squirt bottles even. Everybody should have their own, or unless you have your own. You shouldn't be sharing towels, etc. If you are providing a location for the officials to dress, make sure that you've got protocols in place to sanitize that, clean that for them so that they'll know what's going on. I don't think our officials are as nervous in fall soccer when it's outdoors as they probably will be in volleyball or basketball when it's indoors. The other question, it was not brought up here, but I had it last night, was are players required to wear a mask? No. If a player wants to wear a mask, will that be considered part of equipment allowed? And the answer to that is yes. The only difference is they may need to be, if they're wearing their mouthpiece, they may need to be asked to say, hey, do you have that? So I think that's where I'm concerned. So TASO officials, you got to go through the chapter signer, not just get two folks that say they have a TASO card. The TAPS approved chapters have done us good in the past. Make sure we're following those. Those are on the TAPS website, taps.biz. On the right-hand side this time up top, it says officials, and you can click on that page and then find out who the approved signers and who the approved chapters are.
If you have a question, shoot it to us right quick. I don't see any yet, but if you have one, if you don't, that's great. If you have a question and you want to reach out to our office, you can always do that. We'll be glad to help you walk through that. I don't see any questions yet. We'll give you a little bit of time, and while we're talking about that, we'll roll to that next. Something we've said in all of our webinars, and we share this with everybody we visit with that reaches out to us here at the office. We tried to give you the best direction we can for what you can and cannot do, and the restrictions we're all living under today. We've given you a little glimpse of what our summer might look like, and then moving into the fall. Please understand, though, you are always subject to your local, state, and national restrictions and orders that might be in place. And if you have any questions about that, reach out to us. We'd love to help you with that. I'm going to let Steve give us a few comments about our convention that we have scheduled in July. Share with us some thoughts on that, Steve.
Yeah, we have the convention. We've moved it back into July. We'll start on July 8th, where we'll have new athletic director training. We'll have our first annual golf tournament, and then we'll have a reception that evening. And then the 9th and 10th, we'll be having breakout sessions, and we'll have sports specific as well as technology. We'll talk about health and safety. We'll talk about all sorts of issues, building culture, building athletic programs. So it'll be a lot of good stuff. The plan is to do it in person, but if we have to, we can fall back to doing it virtually, and we'll be doing that as well. We have a lot of sponsors who've already committed, more coming. So we ask you to participate in some way if you can. And again, things are going to change. The COVID's going to change. It's like the Texas weather. If you don't like it, just wait a minute. But we're going to roll with these punches, and hopefully we'll be coming out strong on the other end.
Hey, Brian, I think we're about at the end here. Share some closing comments for our viewers.
I just want to reiterate that fall soccer has been a part of our culture here at TAPS for many years. It provides a great opportunity for our students and for our schools to participate in a fall sport, especially those that are unable to or choose not to participate in football. We support it greatly. It's spread out. It's interesting that we have not had the Houston teams for the last few years, but there has been talk of 3 or 4 down in Houston area starting. So we would highly encourage that and be encouraged if they wanted to join and create that district down there. There's been a talk the last few years about trying to get tournaments together, preseason tournaments, pre-district tournaments. I know most of you are just playing district games or a couple of more. If you have thoughts on that, drop us an email at info@taps.biz. We would sure try to help you if we could. Of course, TAPS can't take on too many responsibilities where money is at a loss. So, and that's the problem with putting on tournaments when you don't own the field or a gym. We found that out here is that when we have to rent, it still costs money. And sometimes those entry fees are a hindrance. Again, this year with COVID-19, your school may or may not feel comfortable participating in a multi-day event. So we're looking at that way. So as we close out, info@taps.biz is our contact email as we continue to work semi-virtual, some at home, some here in the office. That's a quicker way to contact us. And our phone number still has that Salado prefix, 254-947-9268, 254-947-9268. We'd love to visit with you if you have questions or concerns. We're looking forward to the fall beginning as it has every fall, August 3rd being that first date to move ahead. If you can be at the convention on the 9th and 10th, I think it's a great opportunity to mingle with the folks at TAPS, both coaches and ADs. And the caveat there is if you're the AD and you are at the convention, you have that opportunity to pick up those TAPS passes that you may or may not need as the school year goes on. So again, we thank each of you for being a part of TAPS. We thank you for having your programs. And we look forward to seeing your programs. We probably won't see you till the state semifinals and the finals. But for us, we can't wait to get there. Thank you for joining us here today.
Okay, thank you, Brian. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Robert and Will, for the webinar today. Couple of closing notes for you guys. Again, this recording will be up later this afternoon. You're going to get an email. Everybody who registered will get an email, and there'll be a link to our YouTube page in there where you can find this recording. Please send that along to anybody on your campus who needs to hear this information. We've got a 6-man football webinar tomorrow at 10 a.m. Our fine arts webinars have been moved to next Thursday. So if there's anybody at your campus who needed to be in on cheer, dance, one-act play, or drumline, those have been moved to Thursday, May 28th because of situations out of our control. If you have any questions, if something occurs to you later, once again, send us an email, info@taps.biz, or call us at the office. Thank you, folks, for being here today, and enjoy the rest of your day.